So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our brief talk. My name's Simon, as you can see there. I'm a solutions consultant at Xoomworks. So I'm here with Aidan today. Aidan's from Eircom, and we're going to talk to you about the procurement transformation program that Eircom went through. We were the partner that works with Eircom on that. For those of you that haven't heard of Xoomworks, probably most of you, we're a consultancy based here in London. We're procurement transformation specialists, and we also partner with a company called Coupa, who are a software company, spend management software company. We're their premier partner in UK and Europe. We do all of their implementations, and we also resell their product, which is tied into the project that we did here with Aidan. We've not got loads. Well, in fact, we've got no slides. That's the only slide. So it's more of a Q&A session between the two of us. If you have questions, feel free to save them for the end, or if you want to jump in, then that's also fine. So, Aidan, do you just want to introduce yourself?
So, I'm Aidan O'Dea. I'm the P2P manager for Eircom. Eircom is an Irish company that provides fixed, mobile and TV offerings to the Irish market. I had overall responsibility for the procurement transformation project, and I have overall ownership of the solution now that we have implemented it.
Okay, thanks. So, I suppose onto the project itself. This was a transformation project that looked at sort of employees, the amount of people that Eircom had in procurement, and how they could best utilise those. And core to that was the implementation of Coupa spend management software. So, Aidan, if you could just sort of give us an overview of why you did the project, what were the drivers for starting the project? So,
I suppose, like most economies, Ireland, had problems with the downturn. What it meant is that a lot of companies are right-sizing, and Eircom, as a company, were doing the same thing. And what it meant was we needed, from a procurement and P2P perspective, to start working smarter. Start, looking across all our processes and procedures and how we worked, and looking to be able to do that work with a smaller amount of resources. The funny thing on the other side was, it was a double-edged sword. As a company, we were launching new services to the market, that being high-speed broadband and a TV offering. So you can imagine the pull on the procurement and P2P resources were increasing. So that was the main driver. So
efficiency of
efficiency, exactly, yeah.
And then I suppose in terms of sort of compliance, savings, risk, are they also part of it?
Yeah, so we're running off a version of SAP, and from a user perspective, it was not a very easy system to use. There was a lot of purchasing going through the system that was off contract. To put the controls into the system was a major overhead, and to maintain it was a major overhead. So we went to the market looking for something that's going to be user friendly, that is going to promote adoption of people using the system, instead of, as a lot of you may understand, someone arriving with the invoice and saying, we need to pay this. We needed the adoption at the very start. We needed a system that people would step in and go, yeah, I'm happy to use this, it's easy to use, and therefore you're getting a lot more spend under your control. And of course, one of the big pluses for us was, with the system we had, there was very poor workflow in it. So as an organization, a procurement organization, as a whole organization, the major efficiencies could be gathered by getting a good workflow in place for contract management, for P2P piece as well. So there was, and finally, one of the main drivers was from a risk perspective, with the system we were using, generally budgets were looked at after the fact. The horse is bolted, the money is spent at the end of the month when you look at how did we go against our budget. We went out looking for a tool that would tell us, that would manage that from the start, that would say, well, when you raise your requisition, you know what contract it's going against and how it's affected your budget.
Okay. So across the board of procurement, there's quite a few things to go after there. So efficiency, you want more savings, and you want to reduce risk. From how did you sort of tackle that? How did you go about it? So I suppose you chose Coupa, as we've just talked about. What were the key reasons that you chose Coupa over any other product?
The main reason was it's really easy to use. As we kind of explained it within our own company, was Sunday night you buy a book on Amazon. Monday morning you come in and you purchase something on this new system. It's a very similar experience. Of course, with all of the required controls and approvals that the system brings. So what it did from a user experience is that the users now are happy to use it. Before that, they were looking for ways around the system. How can we get this done without having to go through the system we had, which was it was clunky to raise a requisition, took a while. It wasn't great at capturing the spend against the contract. So that was one of the major drives. It was to get users to use the system. And what it was we ended up with a system that there's one easy way to procure your goods and services. Any other way is impossible. But the right way is easy. So overall spend that that brought under procurement management increased an awful lot.
And you also talked about the efficiencies that you needed as well. So things like automated workflow, accounts payable. Did it offer anything in that regard?
Without a doubt, first of all, on the P2P piece, requisition workflow, contract approval workflow, invoice workflows, any approvals could be done all online on the system. It meant that specifically with the contract piece, our contract management, we really needed efficiencies on that. So our contract management was paper-based. And for a procurement organisation who wanted to bring in efficiencies, contract approval workflow was really needed. And that was one of the big, I suppose, benefits and efficiencies that was brought in immediately to the procurement and P2P organisation. Okay.
And then, so why you did it, why Coupa? In terms of the project itself, how did you go about it? Was it phased? Was it a big bang? What worked? What didn't go well?
So yeah, we looked at what would be an easy win that would generate goodwill in the organisation and give immediate benefits. So we said we'd start with contract workflow, contract management. Took about 2 months to implement. What it meant was, straight away, with contracts being signed off, you're hitting the exec level immediately because they're going to have to be part of that approval flow. So we were going to get the exec straight away saw the benefit. No more guys walking up to them with a piece of paper saying, "Can you sign this?" They were seeing the contracts coming through to them in the workflow. Oh, and by the way, they had the ability then to approve that, whether on the system, via email, or on the phone, a phone app as well. So you'd find MDs, in one particular, soon after we started, we found an MD approving a contract at 11 p.m. at night. I was getting on the plane this morning in Dublin, and waiting on the tarmac, executed 2 approvals, waiting to get onto the plane. So this created goodwill in the organisation for the implementation project. What it did for procurement, as I said, was it took an awful lot of noise and admin away from the procurement organisation. And finally, which is most important to a procurement organisation, we were able to execute contracts quicker, straight away, and then start realising those savings straight away. You were able to do deals with suppliers, get it under contract, and start running at your new rates a lot quicker than we had previously been able to do. Procurement organisation, we spend approximately 800 million a year in the Irish market. We've got a procurement organisation of approximately category management organisation of about 12 now. So it's a small team. And I'll get on to in a while in the conversation about what the system did with our whole operations team. So what I noticed from our strategic procurement organisation was a lot of noise went away, a lot of the admin. So these guys were then able to concentrate what they're hired to do, which is to do deals and execute it, savings with suppliers, and get the best service for the company. Because we freed up their time. And in the other process and procedures, we freed up the time of other people in the organisation, in the procurement operations side, say, who now could actually, you can go to supplier management, do some supplier management, you can run some RFPs or some sourcing, because the efficiencies in the system freed up their time. So
I think you had a team of sort of order processors who were taking an approved requisition and rekeying it then as a purchase order, which is obviously massively redundant.
No value add. These people were busy because we were doing 30,000 POs a year, so they were busy keying away to no benefit. So what I was able to do straight away is direct this team to, as I said, supplier management, analytics, running RFPs, RFQs, and there was an added bonus in that you were developing this team as well. You were bringing a lot more value to the organisation from that team, and that's maybe not so much, not only in the procurement organisation, but what the system did on the AP, pure AP side, the invoice processing side, is the exact same thing. What you're really dealing with, and we can probably go into it in a while later, but on the AP side, you're really only dealing with exceptions anymore. The vendor sees, via the vendor portal, sees the end-to-end supply chain. The vendor sees its PO. When it posts an invoice, it sees it through the portal. So when a vendor supplier rings you before, well, in our experience, the supplier would ring us and ask 50 questions. They had only one question: when am I getting paid? With this portal, they're looking at it, they see their PO, they see their invoice, they open their invoice and it gives them this is when you're due to be paid. Or when you're paid, it tells them as well. So it takes a lot of noise out of the AP organisation. And by the way, when the supplier, with the PO flip technology, when the supplier posts an invoice, if the goods and receipt's already done, AP never need to look at it. It's automatically approved. Three-way match. Why would AP need to look at it? As long as all the other VAT and all the other bits and pieces are correct.
In fact, that's something we see quite a lot with clients taking up Coupa. Is they're not necessarily building in headcount reduction into their business case, because that's quite a sensitive sort of area, but they're redeploying staff to do more value-add things, whether it's in procurement, AP, a number of customers who are taking up sort of early payment discount programs. Because it gives them the technology to manage that, but B, because their invoice is ready to be paid within 5 or 10 days, as opposed to 30 days when it's going around to be signed off by everyone. So it's an interesting thing when you're building your business case. It's always sensitive around headcount. But.
So are you talking from a supplier invoicing us, or
Within the business?
within the business? Oh, that was it. Tough luck, one way. Anymore. As I said, bringing in the contract piece first, brought the exec on board, so they were happy to then push it through their organisations. No, there is only one way, and this is it. But as I said, it's easy. So most organisations, like everybody uses the web now. So it's, as I said, the experience is similar to, as I said, buying something on Amazon. You go in here in the morning, you purchase your goods or service. It's similar, you're adding to the cart and so on. So that's one of the benefits of the system, is that its adoption of users is not difficult. Actually, we're kind of victims of our success in that I made a decision looking at the amount of staff in the organisation who raised requisitions across the business. And I said, based on that, I need X amount of licenses, depending on what license deal you do. But I said, I need X amount of licenses. Now, what I'm finding is that now everyone said, it's easy to raise requisitions now. And I can track them and watch them, so why wouldn't I do it myself? What I'll say is that, and it's probably one of the findings when we discussed it, was you need finance in from day one, around the table, for a couple of different reasons. This will integrate into your SAP or whatever ERP system you're using. It's fairly straightforward integration across SFTP, via the iDoc in SAP that we used. So it's fairly straightforward. The difference is, especially with the budgeting, is in finance, I know in our organisation, finance budget based on the commitment, the goods receipt. When the goods receipt's done in the system, oh yeah, that's decremented against my budget. It's phased differently in Coupa, because the budget has to be when the requisition is going to be raised. That could be a month, 2 months before finance would have expected a GRN to be done. So that's just one part of it. But you know, the reporting and the accruals need to be looked at by the finance team early on. Especially, and in our case, it was definitely something to look at, because you know, we'd used our version of SAP for years, so people are set in their ways. So there is some change, but what I have found is that from there was a need for change in the financial control organisation and how they worked, but at the same time, they're the same people who were raising their hands saying, yeah, the ability to analyse invoices, to ensure that from a VAT perspective that everything is 100% is a lot easier now in this system.
Yeah, and specifically on coding, so the way the system's built is that you don't need, or you shouldn't need, a user to think about coding. It will all default from either their user ID, the product that they're buying. So it should take away some of that sort of headache of thinking, where am I going to cost this to? Obviously, you know, things change sometimes, but the general rule is that the user shouldn't need to look at that.
So, and on that, from a finance perspective, what we did was we integrated our accounting from SAP up into the Coupa system, so that in the Coupa accounts module, any change we make in SAP for the financial control just pops into Coupa the following day. So from that point, what you'll find is, and just to add to your point, all of the journaling at the end of the month, a lot of that goes away too, because when you pick your product, I've already decided what GL it's going to go against. with the finance team, of course. So it's a lot tighter there, and the amount of journals at the end of the month will reduce too.
So, a question sort of, what are some of the headline sort of results? What are some of the savings, achievements, stats, KPIs that have improved because of this?
I think straight away, and I mentioned already, was the turnaround time on contracts and requisitions. The PR to issue PO, the timeline it takes, and the same with contracts from creation to approval. In both cases, I can remember after a week, one of our contracts was approved in 3 hours. It used to take about 3 weeks chasing people around the building. I'd say that our requisitioning approval has gone from an average of 7 days to an average of 1.5, 2. So that's straight away is a big benefit. From a control perspective, with the budgets loaded into the system, what you do find is the budgets are in the system. Oh, and by the way, from the financial organisation are straight away able to view those budgets and how we're doing against these budgets real time. And then there's the ability to make strategic and tactical decisions that before now, really, you were, as I said, when the horses bolted, well, then you were able you could look at it, but it's too late. I think from a pure procurement perspective, if you're looking at the ability to create or capture savings earlier and for a longer term within each financial year, the ability to run those, to get those contracts in place and up and running, has meant that meeting your targets, you will meet your targets quicker. One of the big benefits and it's from an IT perspective, and it kind of came to us as we were implementing that after a couple of weeks running, is that the configuration of the system is fairly simple. It's software as a service, so there's a platform that's worldwide. However, how you can configure that system for your own specific needs without affecting the overall platform. So, and it's really easy to do it. So when you make a decision like, say I wanted to change the workflow or the delegated authority in SAP, it'd take a piece of work. I'd have to get the IT team involved. I'd have to, in some cases, change configuration. I'd have to get a consultant in and I'd have to change coding. It would cost. Oh, and by the way, it'll take time. The configuration of this system and configuring it for your own needs is simple. So you do it as soon as you make your decision, you go and do it. Oh, and as soon as, and it's done immediately, and there's no time lag in between. What are we going to do, and how long will it take to do it? So that's something to think about as well. You don't need, the only IT involvement really is, can you open the firewall so we can hook into the system, and to build the integration into the SFTP site. But after that, once it's up and running, it's fairly straightforward.
So in consultant speak, that's lower total cost of ownership, I suppose. We're running out of time, but there's got to be. Well, we talked about it a little bit, but what didn't go well? What were the lessons learned?
Yeah, finance. Yeah, definitely you need the finance team around the table immediately. I know it sounds like, well, everyone knows that. My experience was that we brought the finance team in immediately, and they were kind of going, this shouldn't change too much, should it? It's integrated, it should be fine. But there's a need for them in. It's software as a service. It is fairly resource low for the rest of the organisation for this P2P system to be put in. For your current P2P and procurement organisation, there'll be a piece of work involved. But my one advice is, yeah, bring your finance guys in straight away, get them around the table.
Okay, so we're nearly out. I think just to summarise, I guess, some recaps. First thing was that you got a quick win by putting contracts in first. Very easy to do. Got sort of that goodwill of the exec team, and then you almost had the rest of the business pulling the solution rather than you trying to push it. I like the point, and we try to stress this quite a bit, around sort of change to people's roles and embracing that in a positive manner. So, you know, people are always worried, am I going to lose my job? Is my role going to change? You sort of tackled that head on and used it as a positive to upskill people. And the lessons learned about finance, which, we should all learn that one to involve finance at all stages. So final for me, as lessons learned as well was, as I said, think about the fact that a lot more people in your organisations, if you are to purchase this, will want to use it. And my experience in organisations, there are satellite businesses or organisations within Eircom who weren't included in the first run, who are now holding their hands up and saying, okay, we want this too. So you're talking about a DocuSign or something like that. No, we have, and I suppose it's when you're dealing with software as a service, and this one of the reasons we looked at this system for everything it had, but they're constantly looking to add to this. So that was one of the first feature requests, as it's called, that we put to them. Why can't we get DocuSign on, and like we'll never have to touch paper again? That's definitely one. It's not. I know from talking to the guys that they have a deal done with DocuSign, and they're talking about rolling it out. It's on the roadmap. I don't know when. Yeah, I think that one thing to mention, because it's a SaaS cloud platform, there's up to 4 releases per year, which you can opt out of a couple. So the rate of change, the development of sort of features and so on is quite rapid. So, I mean, you've only been using it less than a year, and the change in functionality has been quite significant. I currently have 2 people who are admins, as in who are maintaining and watching the releases of the new functionality, and there will have to be some testing around that. But I've got 2 staff, 2 of the guys who are creating POs are now maintaining the system, and you know that is plenty for the amount of releases that are coming through. That's about it. That's it. You know, it really is the business. Once you set it up, all it's catalog based, so all your catalogs are tied to contracts. Anytime anyone raises it, it automatically picks up the workflow. The procurement organisation, who used to, when all these recs were approved and had to sit there and then tidy every one of them up before they went onto a PO, it's not needed anymore. It's automated. Once the rec is approved, out it goes to the supplier. From an AP perspective, yeah, AP still will have to deal with invoice exceptions, but when you think about it, with the vendor portal that's involved, once the vendor will post an invoice, if it's not goods receipted already, they'll get a message pending receipt. That will be the status of their invoice. So then they can make a call and go, you know, I delivered it, please do the GRN. So it's the business now will get the call from the supplier and say, well, yeah, I delivered it, why aren't you GRN it? If it is GRN already, it goes automatically to approve. AP never have to see it. So when you think about it, that's going to take away an awful lot of your AP
before that we were same as the PO creation. There was every invoice had to be keyed in. So now you're going to be dealing with exceptions.
Any more questions? No? Thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you all.
Have a good day.